Police in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, have fired tear gas at protesters angered by the death of a 31-year-old blogger in police custody. President William Ruto earlier said the man died at the hands of the police, contradicting initial accounts of his death. Officials had claimed he died during self-inflicted injuries, but an autopsy revealed that he was assaulted. The blogger was known for being critical about political and social issues. Well, Malcolm Webb is following the story for us. He's in Nairobi live. Malcolm, what are protesters demanding?
Well, I'm going to step aside so we can take a look at what's going on. The police officers here have been trying to break up angry crowds using tear gas. And this has gone on for several hours now, but began with a relatively small crowd of rights activists and other demonstrators angered by the death of Albert Ojwang, the blogger, who an autopsy said had been killed by blunt traumas to the head, also suffered strangulation while in police custody. This followed him tweeting about a corruption scandal, a bribery scandal in which the deputy police chief had already been implicated by a newspaper investigation, but it's angered people that he was detained for that and then days later dead in a police station. Malcolm, people are calling for the deputy police chief to be held to account.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
So if we can take a look up here, we can see some of those demonstrators. If we take the camera up there and zoom in, we can see some people who are persisting in throwing stones at the police in spite of one volley of tear gas after the next being fired at them. Yeah, there were calls for the deputy police chief to resign, people saying he should be investigated and he should be tried. President William Ruto has called for investigations, but one of the reasons this is making people so angry is because of the spate of what rights groups say have been extrajudicial killings, disappearances and arrests that began a year ago when these very streets were filled with many thousands of protesters who were demonstrating against the government plan to increase taxes. And that also prompted demonstrators to campaign against corruption and led to widespread demands for President William Ruto to step down.
Malcolm, let's persist. Obviously, if you need to step aside or get somewhere safe, then do so. I mean, the budget we know is being read in Parliament, not far from where you are. Last year's finance bill, as you suggested, prompted, of course, nationwide protests. How are people reacting to this year's budget?
Well, this year's budget doesn't propose the same kind of significant tax hikes that last year's initial proposed budget did, although there are some tax increases and some changes to taxation methods, but there have been objections to it expressed because of excessive data collection by the Revenue Authority. Activists point towards that being used for further oppression, for the government accessing people's data from people's mobiles and so on. Also complaints that some formerly zero-rated VAT inputs for businesses will be subject to tax. And that's going to, concern is that'll put prices up for consumers. But it's very much the death in police custody of Albert Ojwang that's triggered this round of demonstrations, but at a time when the economic troubles for most Kenyans haven't got better. The cost of living is still high. The government's still struggling to keep up with a significant debt burden that's widely attributed to years of economic mismanagement and widespread corruption. And then this also comes at a time that revenue collections are down in spite of taxes going up. So definitely a sense of frustration, a simmering discontent with the government, and Kenya's economic woes aren't getting any better either.
Well, of course, we can see that discontent behind you, thick plumes of what look like tear gas as we see more anger on the streets of the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Malcolm, many thanks for the update. Malcolm Webb there.